The following is an exclusive national high-definition broadcast of Indiana University's Little 500 on HDNet.
The Women's Little 500, a tradition at Indiana University since 1988, where the young Hoosier undergrads get to show their strength, teamwork, and often track savvy. May the best women's team be crowned champions. Good afternoon and welcome to the campus of Indiana University in Bloomington. The women that you will see riding today are all undergraduate students here at the university. They've been logging thousands of miles. They've been training year-round for one single today. In essence, this starts the world's greatest college weekend. One of the things that we'll keep our eye on today, what role will the weather play in today's race? Already severe gusts up here and down on the track. It'll culminate in the 21st running of the Women's Little 500. Hello again, everybody. Judd Surratt, glad you could join us once again for HDNet's coverage of the 21st running of the Women's Little 500. Once again, I am joined by Bloomington native, IU alum, and an all-star rider in the Men's Little 500, Jason Sonneborn. Jason is a guy who raced and competed in this race, and is a guy who graduated from here, who's from this town. Can you talk about the perspective and how significant today is for the riders, for the school, and for the town?
Oh, it means everything to these riders. It's a year-long worth of events put on by the Student Foundation. It means everything to the riders, right? 15,000 of their classmates pour out of dormitories, pour out of sororities and fraternities to come watch them compete today in a bike race. It is absolutely the Super Bowl of collegiate bike racing.
Well, we talk about the world's greatest college weekend. Actually, the events for this or surrounding this have started the entire week, and with that I'd also like to bring in Dylan Casey. Dylan, you're a former Olympic rider. You rode in Sydney in 2000, a guy who's ridden all over the world, competed in all sorts of different races. Can you give us an idea of how unique this event is?
Well, you know, Jed, this may not be the Olympics, this may not be a national champion event, but this is the biggest race in collegiate sports, like Jason mentioned, and these girls have been training for months like professionals. They've been living like professionals, and today somebody's going to win like a professional.
Well, this race originally started back in 1951, and the idea from Howdy Wilcox was to find a way to generate money for working students here at Indiana University, and since the race's inception, they have generated more than $1.5 million for students here who are working their way through Indiana University, and this is an event that is put on by the Indiana University Student Foundation.
I'm Trisha Runkle, and I'm the president of the Student Foundation.
I'm Doug Davis, and I'm on the steering committee.
The Student Foundation is a nonprofit organization, so our mission today is to create leadership opportunities by putting on campus events that in turn create the funding for working student scholarships, which is amazing because we're giving some students the chance to be able to actually come and experience IU.
We definitely put a lot of hard work into making Little 5 what it is and the actual event, but make a lot of good friends. You spend a lot of hours with those individuals painting the sponsor pit boards out, painting the logo on the track, getting everything together and getting the pits aligned, and showing up when the sun comes up to get the track ready, get the bikes out. It is a lot of hard work, but it's very rewarding seeing the thousands of people in the stands going nuts.
It's a year-long process, and we're always working on it. Right after this one gets over, we'll start working on the new one. There's so many things that go into it. You have to do the sponsors, you have to get all the teams in order, and then you have to start organizing all of the events, such as Missing Out and Team Pursuit.
We spend those hours with each other putting on this event. We all have that common interest of being involved in the traditions of IU, and that really brings everybody together. And those riders share that same interest with the tradition because they want to be a part of it as well, and they realize the work we put into it, and we realize the work that they're going to put into riding in the race. Seeing that sun come over the trees on the track when they're out there working and getting everything ready, it's amazing to see the stadium empty and then 2 hours later just filled, standing room only, and it's just that buzz that Little 5 creates. It takes over the campus in Bloomington. The campus gets a little crazy over a Little 5 weekend. I think it's just end of the year, people are ready for summer, and it's something everybody looks forward to. They got it marked on their calendar. Whether you're in a fraternity or sorority, if you're independent, it's just something that everybody comes together, really. Everybody's IU.
This has been my most favorite part about being at IU thus far. It's an absolutely amazing experience because you, as a student, are putting on, what is considered to be the world's greatest college weekend. The most interesting or fun thing about being involved in the Student Foundation is getting to work with the most amazing people that I've ever come across in my life. I mean, these people are dedicated and hardworking and fun, and even though I practically live there right now, it's fun because they're there, and I know that every time I walk through the door, it's going to be, a great experience because I've gotten the chance to work with these people, and not only do they become, my friends, but I think that anyone on steering committee would say that at this point, we're all like family.
In 2006, the men's race here at the Little 500 was won by Alpha Tau Omega. It was an epic ride put in by Hans Arneson. He logged more than 120 of the 200 laps of the men's race. Some say he could be the greatest rider ever to compete in this event, and we are fortunate enough today to have Hans Arneson trackside working for us as an analyst, and he is also a first-time coach. He'll be coaching his younger sister's team from the Gamma Phi Beta sorority. And Hans, as a first-time coach, what will some of the things that you will be tuned to today?
Thanks, Judd. Today, this wind is going to play a big factor. That's the big question mark out there. We've got to see how the riders are going to feel. Once they get out there, get a few laps on their legs, we're going to see who's riding well today, who can keep up. On the back stretch over there, the wind is really, really strong. So it's, again, like I said, it's a big question mark. We'll have to see how they're feeling, but we've got a whole group of rookie riders, and I'm a rookie coach. We've got a full rookie team. It's going to be fun, and it's going to be interesting, but I've learned from the best. I learned from Norm Hoos. He's one of the best coaches there is. So I'm going to try to apply some of the things I've learned from him and then take it lap by lap. We're going to see how everyone's doing and feeling. We're going to play this lap by lap, see how it plays out. It's going to be fun.
Thanks a lot, Hans. With the conditions today, it will definitely play a factor in who's going to win this race. When we return, we'll take a look at some of the favorites and some of the essentials here at the Women's Little 500. Welcome back to the 21st rounding of the Women's Little 500. Earlier this week there was a rumor that Barack Obama would show up at the race. Well, it has come to fruition. He has descended like a rock star here at Bill Armstrong Stadium. Barack Obama, a Democratic presidential hopeful, making a speech earlier today in another portion of Indiana. He's actually got to make a speech later this afternoon into the early evening in Terre Haute. But there's a man who understands the significance and the importance of not only this event, but the students here at Indiana University. Most people who see this event for the first time probably think it's just about being fast. But for a lot of people and for a lot of riders, winning is about survival. There's no question, even in the best of conditions, we are going to see plenty of those crashes around the track. How will today's wind, and it's a crosswind, one of the things that we talked about before we came on, affect today's riders?
Well, Judd, you saw a lot of the crashes just a minute ago that were happening from the girls overlapping wheels. But what we're going to see today with all of the wind, these bikes don't have regular brakes. They have just a coaster brake, and that doesn't make it easy to modulate your speed. So when something happens in front of you, you don't really have a lot of time to react. We're going to see some big crashes today.
And for for people who ride in this race, most people carry these scars on for the rest of their life because the cinders, they can be very difficult to get out.
I think it's a badge of honor, though.
Well, we had a chance earlier this week to talk to some of the prominent riders, 4 in particular, from some of the powerhouse teams to get their essentials on the race and also some of the sacrifices that are involved.
It's definitely a lot different from like your road bikes. It's 1 speed and the brakes are like coaster pedals, so it takes you back to kindergarten.
Yeah, it's definitely different than, because most of the time, like in the fall or even part of the spring, we'll train on the road bike. So then once you get on the track and start transferring over to the little Phi bikes, you just have to get used to that gear and pushing that gear, and it's just a different feel, I think, in general. So.
And now, after spending so much time with that bike, I absolutely love it, and I'm gonna take a little Phi bike with me and commute on it wherever I go, because those bikes, you wouldn't know it, but they're so durable. You can take that through anything and nothing's gonna happen to it.
Exchanges are definitely what make Little 5 unique. There's no other bike race that has anything like that. And I mean, I think if you tell anyone that doesn't go to Indiana or has seen Little 5, it's just like, what? What do you do with the bike? And so, I mean, teaching them, it's definitely, some people you can either get it right away or you really have to practice with it, but it's fun, and once you get it down, you have it down, and it makes Little 5 what it is.
The cinders, I don't know what it is about them, but it's like a cheese grater. It leaves grooves in you when you fall. It's not just a little road rash, and if you don't clean it out, your skin's gonna heal with those cinders underneath it, and they're just gonna be in there.
Yeah, I'd rather wreck on asphalt any day over the cinders.
Well, last year we had a chance to take in the 2007 Women's Little 500, and prior to last year, only 2 sororities had ever won the race. Make it 3. Kappa Delta may have surprised everybody with the way that they rode away with last year's race and won it. It was Lindsay Make who was on the bike, Lake Jason, and I think that not a lot of people really paid attention to them. They weren't on the pole. Teter was on the pole last year. They're on the pole again this year. But Lindsay basically caught everybody napping and almost lapped the field.
And it's great. Those girls are back here today, right? Kappa Delta, they'll be wearing yellow. Look for a really strong performance from them. Teter has dominated all spring, all the series events. They'll be wearing green, our pole position team. Those are 2 teams to watch, as well as Kappa Alpha Theta, who's really a perennial favorite.
Well, a lot of the teams to watch are all in the front row, and being in the front, Dylan, in a race like this is almost essential. But some of the teams that we're going to keep our eye on today, Kappa Delta, Delta Gamma, Teter as well, and Teter in particular has a woman named Sarah Riki, who may be the most decorated rider ever in the history of this event.
Judd, I think we're going to look for a race that's going to be a lot different than in the years past, because we've seen some action in the first couple of laps and then maybe a crash that separates everybody. But with this wind, I wouldn't be surprised right now if some of the coaches out there are telling their girls, let's make this race happen on the first lap.
2 other teams to think about. Cycledelics, they currently qualified 17th, but they have one of the strongest riders in the race in Pam Lobick, and also Wing It. They have a rider named Christy Hewitt who won first at ITTs, the time trials here that determines everything.
Sure, Judd. ITTs is 4 laps, everybody by themselves. It's an individual time trial. Kristen Hewitt really came out and surprised Sarah Riki. She surprised everyone on the track that day, and an impressive performance from a new team and a newcomer being Wing It. So it's great. We have a balanced field to watch here today.
But in talking to a lot of the riders, Dylan and Jason as well, a lot of luck is involved. It's not just the training that everybody puts in. There is strategy, but you also have to be fortunate.
Absolutely. I think part of being lucky in this race is being in the right place and not being in the wrong place. You got to put yourself in a position to be lucky, to actually take advantage of some of those bad opportunities.
And one of the things that Hans Arneson touched on, Jason, is an awareness. There was a lack of an awareness last year that allowed Kappa Delta to run away. One of the things that the coaches and a lot of the riders have to be cognizant of, experience will play a factor.
And look for that today. Whenever you have a very strong team like Teter, watch the other teams. They'll need to watch Teter, as Teter's going to try to push the pace from the start. Starting in the pole position, they'll try to string it out, use the wind to their advantage, and make this a hard race on the other teams.
Dylan, you briefly referenced the bikes and how unique they are. Another thing that they have to do for today's race, the women have to exchange at least 5 times. When to exchange, how exchanges are made will be essential today.
Well, you're right, Jed, and this is a team race, so they're really going to have a strategy that's redeveloped and redesigned based on the wind, because I think we're going to see a completely different race today. So those exchanges, when they do them, how they do them, is going to be completely different than something we've ever seen in the past.
There are a couple of riders here who could actually put the hammer down and do the race all by themselves, or at least one or two, but even the strongest teams say it will take an entire team to win. Stay with us for more of our coverage of the 21st running of the Women's Little 500. Welcome back. It has turned out to be a sunny day here at the Women's Little 500. Last night, thunder showers, storms, a wet track. There were some, at least of a threat at points, and there was some intermittent rain here at the Women's Little 500, but at least at this point, the weather has accommodated. Jason and Dylan, one of the things that when you qualify, based on where you finish, allows you to choose where you want to have your pit. Does it matter? We're going to talk about this a little bit more at length tomorrow for the Men's Little 500, because you have favorites that are spread in different directions. But here today, you've got Teter that is just in front of the pole, and you've got Kappa Delta, which qualified third, last year's returning champion, all the way to our left in turn 4.
And Judd, Kappa Delta's pit selection is a real surprise to me today. The ideal pit location is at the end of a straightaway, because you can get it more of a gap as you bring that bike in for an exchange. So the Kappa Delta's pit selection is a surprise. Teter's where you'd expect him to be. They're close to the penalty box. There's always an advantage there, and then always the good teams want to be on the end of the straightaway. So Katie's is a little bit of a surprise.
You know, another thing that's going to make pit selection, actually the qualification, even more of an issue today, is that this front side has a tailwind, the back side has a headwind. I'd much rather be doing an exchange in a tailwind than a headwind.
Well, it is just going to be dicey as you come through, would you say turns 1 and 2, just to try and negotiate yourself from inside to outside?
Well, you know what you're going to see, especially if the wind is almost like a cross across the track, the riders are going to be hugging the gutter on the front side, but then they're going to be up against the wall on the back side. So it's going to play a really interesting dynamic on how the field is going around the track.
Yeah, and Dylan, I don't know if you'd agree, but there's nowhere to hide down here on turns 3 and 4. The wind's going to be coming at them. On turns 1 and 2, you'll see the riders sitting off to the right side a little bit on their hip, and that's going to help them block the wind.
That's right. Well, we have it's called an echelon, because essentially the riders in the front will ride, like if the wind is coming from the left, they'll ride on the left, and then all the riders behind them will kind of stack up on the right side, and it almost looks like an arrow pointing to the left. And then if the wind is from the right, it's the opposite. But what happens is when you're coming out of a corner, sometimes people overlap wheels, the wind gusts, no brakes. All of a sudden, we're going to have gigantic crashes everywhere. It's going to be a total casino.
The fans have started to fill the bleachers here at Bill Armstrong Stadium. This was in essence constructed to put on the Little 500. It used to be that it took place at the 10th Street Stadium, which was the Arboretum, which is a little bit to our west. And even before that, it was a race around the auditorium when it was first founded in the early 50s. To get back a little bit to the track and the surface, Jason, in the past we've talked about if you get outside of the groove, and if you can explain the groove, what it means to be in the groove, outside of the groove, and if you're not in the groove, how it can affect your ride.
All spring they do a lot of work on the track, and what they do is they water it and they roll it, water it and roll it, and that cycle happens repeatedly. And there's also a hard packed surface where the riders ride frequently, and that's close to the curb. And so that's what we call the groove, right? That's where you want to be. You don't want to sift to the outside of the track. It's a longer distance, and also the cinders are a lot looser, right? As the day goes on, you're going to see a hard packed surface, and the track actually gets faster throughout the day.
So with that in mind, and the way Dylan and both of you have described how you're going to have to take account of the wind, by going outside, you're putting yourself in peril.
You are, because the cinders are loose. There's big grooves in there. It's not like road racing. It's somewhat of an interesting mix between mountain bike racing, road racing, and track racing. The surface is unique. The bike is unique. It's just part of what makes this just a wonderful weekend.
Yeah, not only that, but the outside of the track is the long way around. So when you're out there, you're in the dust and the dirt and the long way. So it's even harder, and you're going to see some really interesting things happen because of the wind. In addition to all of that.
Guys, the clear favorite for the women's race today is Teter, and led by one of the best riders in Little 500 history, Sarah Ricci. Teter will sit in the pole position for today's race just as they did last year. This year, even better, with 5 riders finishing in the top 11 at individual time trials, meaning that one of their best riders will not even be competing in the race this year. And we had a chance to sit down and talk with Team Teter to get their outlook on today's race.
Are we ready?
I'm Sarah Ricci, and we are Team Teter. Teter is a dorm on campus. Typically, freshmen live there, but we've taken that tradition out and built a team of freshmen through seniors. We do recruiting every year. We do it in the dorm, and just anyone we run into on the street that is interested in Little 5, we lend a hand. It's the girls that stick around and want to push themselves and want to ride hard. Those are the girls that usually stay with us at the end of the year.
Push it, right?
Teter's been around for a handful of years, but we've really only begun to get good, and I'd say the past 6 years. It started with Bree Kovac, and she started building up the race, really pushing the envelope on how good women can be. And then we've tried to carry that tradition, and now we have a full team of excellent riders. Last year we got second place. The first place girl ended up a lap ahead of us, and we ended up in a 2-person sprint for second place, which we won. This year we're looking to win the race and go all the way.
If you're training seriously, it kind of becomes more of a lifestyle where you ride like every day, or you're doing long rides on the weekend, and you're riding when it's cold. But that's been really great. And then with quals weekend, I didn't ride in quals, but it was just so exciting. It was the best day ever. And then so ITTs was a really great experience too.
The last 2 years that I've been in the race, we've only actually had 4 girls, so we've never had to decide between 6 of us this year.
Find your spin, okay?
All out, and then 4, all you got.
Yeah.
Aren't those all the same?
No, second.
I think this year's gonna go awesome, even better than last year. It's just that we've all been working really hard, and we all believe in each other, so it's gonna come true.
All the way!
I think exchanges are terrifying. I'm getting better at them, but it's just kind of, the bike's still going like 20 miles an hour, and you hear Sarah or someone from the sidelines go, "Get off!" And I'm like, what? But I'm figuring it out, and it's really like an organic thing. It's not like this happens and you do this. It's kind of like, well, you hear it coming and then you're gonna stick your hands out, but it's just that moment and you have to feel it. And so it's been a difficult thing to learn, but I'm excited to do them.
I took a spill a couple times, so it's a learning experience, and it's just something that you need to get down. There's no getting around it.
A huge crash.
Actually, I'm a Bloomington kid, so I've kind of grown up with the race, and I've seen it all these times. When I was in high school, it was, well, if I go to IU, this is something I want to do.
If you're not first, you're last. Well, it's kind of a story, isn't it?
Guys, they're an intense group, but a loose group yesterday, or actually Wednesday, on the last day that women and men could both ride on the track. They all came out in boas. They were having a lot of fun. They were wearing what they call their funfetti shorts, which they're wearing today in all different colors because they said they like the cupcakes.
Yeah, and there's no question, for 21 years, the women have helped make this weekend, right? When it was just a guys' race, you didn't have that co-ed aspect of it. So it's just a wonderful opportunity for men and for women that care about school, and they also care about athletics to come out here. These girls, they get to know each other all spring. They ride together, they go on spring break together, they learn how to do exchanges together. So they beat each other up before they come out and race on race day.
Sarah Teter, who you see on the right, she is the intense one of the group. On the left, you see Erin Hetzel, who had a terrible crash. And those are some of the battle scars that a lot of riders, both men and women, will have in this race. Jackie Moeller, who is not in that picture, she's the one that keeps everybody loose. As Sarah is intense in trying to drive that group, Jackie will try and lighten the mood.
What a fun group of girls, though. You can tell they really have a great amount of fun together. They have great energy, and I think that's one of the elements that's really key to having a winning team.
Yeah, but bike racing is such an individualistic sport, Dylan, right? And in this event, you can't do it alone. You need a team, you need a coach, you need a lot of support. And for me, that's the special thing about the Little 500, because the teamwork that you learn and the camaraderie that you have, you really can't repeat that.
Yeah, and it's not just the team members themselves or the coaches, it's their whole house. You know, it's like this huge support crew that comes together and works together for the whole entire year for this one day.
There are 3 different organizations, just very briefly, that are involved in these races, both men and women. Dorm teams, independent teams, sororities today. There'll be fraternities tomorrow. With Teter in particular, just to get back to them, in talking to some of the riders on Wednesday, and even talking to Hans Arneson, who's with us today, a lot of the riders talked about the intimidation factor when it comes to Teter, that once these girls are on the track, once these women are on the track, everybody takes notice, and a lot of them are intimidated.
Yeah, and Dylan can talk to this as well, but bike racing is mental and it's physical. I don't quite know what the exact ratio is, but all the things that happen in the spring events, it helps, you know, build a mental outlook on the race. So you've seen Teter just dominate this spring, so the other women and the other teams have to be aware of that. And the mental aspect of it will definitely come into play today.
Well, you know what's great is all the kind of trash talking that happens in the weeks leading up to today. I mean, all the different qualifying events, and everybody's keeping track of who's doing what and what the qualifying times were. And it all comes down today. It's great.
And during the spring, I've heard the term flex your muscles, right? There's track practice every day, so it's an opportunity to come out and kind of show what you got, flex your muscles a little bit, intimidate the other teams.
I had a chance to visit with Pam Lobig, and we did talk about the Teter team, and in particular, she said, I've tried to watch some of their strategy, and I've tried to inform some of the other teams so we can compete with them. And when they try and break away, one of the things that she said is, I've watched them all week, and they try to do these 2-lap burns to just get a sizable lead. There are ways that we can keep them in competition with everybody else. How?
Well, I think Pam in Cycledelics, what they want to do is they want to keep it together. You know, Teter outright has the strongest women. That's proved by their ITTs. So somehow Cycledelics and Kappa Delta, Kappa Alpha Theta, Kappa Kappa Gamma, they need to keep Teter in check. And how they can do that is stay close to them, stay on their wheels, and essentially kind of keep somewhat of a pack together throughout this 100-lap race.
I just don't think it's possible today. I think we're going to see a race that gets broken up pretty early. And for Teter, that's a great strategy. That's a great thing that could happen for them because they have a strong team and they want to ride a strong race. For some of the other teams that have sprinters that are really going to be looking for the last lap, they're going to have to reshuffle the deck a little bit and maybe change their strategy.
Alex Enan, who's working for us as a spotter today, rode and won with Dodd's House in the men's race back, I believe, in 2002. He mentioned that earlier this week there was a severe crash along the backside around turn 3, and he said a lot of it had to do with the headwind there. And there was a pack, they hit the headwind, everybody bunched up, and it was a massive pileup, and there were a couple women who were injured. One busted a collarbone, and one tore ligaments in a wrist.
Yeah, we call that the accordion effect because essentially when they go into the turns, what happens is they bunch up, right? Bikes are really tight together, wheels are close together, and that's when we see those accidents. It's hard on the women. It's an awful lot of excitement, I guess, for the fans to watch. But that's when you see the accidents happen, is when the groups bunch up, and the wind just adds to that, right? Because it pulls them together as they're going into the turns.
Everybody for these events prepares differently, trains differently. The night before the event, I've heard that some women, some men, just to try and get away from the pomp and circumstance and the Mardi Gras-like intensity and atmosphere on the campus, they will get hotel rooms so they can at least get some sleep and focus. Did you ever do that?
Yeah, we always stayed outside of Bloomington the night before the race because in a fraternity house, there's not a whole lot of sleep that happens this week. So, yeah, you do try to get away from campus a little bit.
There was an article in the Indiana Daily Student, just what everybody's going to do to prepare for the race, whether it's music, what they're going to eat, just to try and prepare for this epic ride. But from start to finish for most of these riders, when will their day start? How do they try and time it out so at least they can take away some of the nervousness of it?
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit last night, Judd, with the Cutters team. And this is such a long day if you think about it, right? You had a presidential candidate here, you wake up early, and really you don't want to get going until the white flag, until the green flag is thrown out and the race starts. You don't want to get wound up too soon. So it's almost a challenge in a way to wait until the race starts and really give it your all then.
We ask please that you stand and remove your hats. We have now coming to the platform the Reverend Father Bob Keller from St. Paul's Student Catholic Center to offer our invocation.
We have a lot of trophies up here to be won, I guess. Let us take a moment of pause. We gather today for purpose, challenge, personal achievement, and teamwork. Let us all give pause in the manner in which we will be remembered today for the sportsmanship of each participant, for the integrity of all supporters, and for the gains made for IU scholarships. The test of this race is more than athletic ability. It is a spirit quest coded in the focus of body, mind, and spirit around the circumference of this track. May we witness the deeper resources of our being in true gallantry, of justice in manners, and of joy in the pursuit of excellence. O source of all being, keep us safe in the turns of this track and in the turns of our lives. And may we truly celebrate this race and carry that into our lives. Amen.
Presenting your colors today, the Pershing Rifles Color Guard from Indiana University's ROTC program. IU's Pershing Rifles is a competitive drill and honor squad consistently receiving high marks in national competition. Our featured vocalist for this 2008 Little 500, Christia Starnes. Christia, a graduate of the Indiana University from Nashville, Tennessee. In December 2007, she won the Metropolitan Opera's Central Illinois District and Central competitions and has appeared in several operas for the Indiana University Opera Theater. Ladies and gentlemen, Christia Starnes and our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave?
With the starting line, now with the starting finish line, and get ready for racing. Here is the acclaimed a cappella group, Straight No Chaser, presenting Back Home Again in Indiana.
back home again in Indiana, and it seems that I can see the gleaming candlelight still shining bright through the sycamores for me. The new moon haze sends all its fragrance from the fields I used to roam. When I dream about the Wabash, then I long for my Indiana home, back home again in Indiana, and it seems that I can see the gleaming candlelight still shining bright through the sycamores for me. The new moon haze sends all its fragrance from the fields I used to roam. When I dream about the Wabash, then I long for my Indiana home.
Straight no chaser. If you're in the infield and not wearing official credentials as a participant or official, please move to the grandstands or spectator areas. Only properly accredited personnel will be permitted in the infield during the race. Only workers are allowed to cross after the first 5 laps. We welcome to the stage today's race starter, and she's a special one, ladies and gentlemen, IU women's basketball coach Felicia Leggett-Jack. She's accompanied by team captains Jory Davis and Whitney Thomas, and the rest of your Indiana Hoosiers.
Ride smart, keep your head up, good luck, and Godspeed. Now, the words we've been waiting to hear. Ladies, mount your Schwinn bicycles!
The pace laps will begin. Some call them the photographer's laps, 2 laps around before the race begins. 100 laps, just a hair over 25 miles. Guys, as we take a look at the front row, for Teter, Aaron Hetzel will start out. It will not be Sarah Riki, their top rider. And 2 of the 3 riders that will start out up front, guys, are rookies. How much will that matter at the start of the race?
Well, interesting enough, yeah, Erin has not ridden any races before, and she's starting on the pole position, so she's got a lot of nerve. She's going to be amped up for the start. Experience does play a lot into this, Judd, because when you come in and you haven't ridden a race before, you're not quite sure what to expect. And you show up and there's so many people here. A presidential candidate is here. There's just a lot that happens. And so that experience does mean a lot for the team. So when I look at the Teter experience, you know, Sarah's ridden 3 races, Jackie's ridden 2, Sydney's ridden 1, so they have a heck of a lot of experience.
Delta Gamma, which qualified second last year, they had to start out with a 2-second pre-race penalty, and they said it was just a disaster after that. Kappa Delta, last year's returning champion. In the second row, wing it, Christy Hewitt won the ITTs, the fastest rider. Hi-Fi, a lot of people think that they could be a dark horse today, and Kappa Alpha Theta, one of the powerhouse programs here.
Yeah, I think Kappa Alpha Theta's won 5 times. That's Liz Pilata on the bike starting for them. You know, they just have so much experience, which helps them on race day. They may not have all the talent, but that experience makes up for a lot.
You see Barack Obama has stuck around. He wants to watch like everybody else. And these first few laps often are some of the most exciting as they try and jockey for position.
Yeah, I sure wouldn't want to be anywhere past, you know, row 5 or 6. You know, we can see some of the teams that are there, because we're going to see a lot of action in the first 5 to 10 laps of this race. And you can see even at the slow pace the difference between the front and the back.
Alpha Phi, one of the 4 teams that has raced in all 21 of the women's Little 500. Began in 1988. At the time, Kappa Alpha Theta in 1987 tried to qualify for the race. They were close. They actually didn't make it. There were 4 other men's teams that also were eliminated. This race is patterned almost identically after the Indianapolis 500, which Howdy Wilcox, who founded the race, his father won it in 1919. So it's 33, there are 33 slots. There are only 32 teams here for the women. There will be a full 33 tomorrow, and each has a row. It'll be essentially 11 rows of 3.
And look there on the last row, Dylan. We got a team. We got Sofa out there. You know, as a former bike racer, you want to keep your feet up. Maybe that's been their strategy going into the race.
I definitely like the strategy. There's something to be said for taking it easy.
There are 2 teams from the School of Fine Arts. The other one, they just wanted to call themselves Sofa, or The Sofa. And the IUSF said that's not going to work. You're going to have to find another name. So they went with Team Couch. So there are 2 teams here as we're about ready to begin.
So it's all about the pageantry right now. I think there's one more lap. In essence, they do 3. What these women have to do is they have to maintain their rows. You cannot creep, so you have to maintain your 11 rows. And this is just an opportunity for them to ride around, have a good time, and show off in front of their fans. The car is going to pick up going down the backstretch and get these women kind of ramped up. You'll see them almost hit 25, 27 miles an hour as they come across the start line.
So, Jason, does some of this have any influence from the Indianapolis 500 with the grid starts and the kind of pomp and circumstance that happens in that race?
Yeah, and it goes back to what Judd mentioned. You know, Howdy Wilcox did want to tailor this race after the Indianapolis 500, so that's why it's a little 500.
That's right.
The winner today will get the Borg Warner Trophy, and instead of the glass of milk, it'll be a milkshake from Steak and Shake, which I talk to the DG team every time they drive by Steak and Shake, they think about it.
Yeah. I believe the guy that started Steak and Shake is an IU Business School alum. And here they come. This is really when it gets exciting, right? This is when it starts to heat up and the adrenaline starts to pump.
Chappie Blackwell will wave the green flag, and the 21st running of the Women's Little 500 is underway. Early on, Aaron Hetzel for the Teter team will take the starting position and start to push.
Well, you can already see some of the girls in the back are trying to work their way to the front, which is why you see them come out of turn 2 so wide.
And I love it. You know, a 5-time champion, Kappa Kappa Gamma, is not going to deal with being in the back too long. Same with Cycledelics. Look at them, just kind of, they want to be up front right away, and maybe in Teter really kind of letting them come through.
Cycledelics will come around after 1 lap and lead. That is Pam Lobig on the bike. Her sister was one of her teammates last year for Cycledelics. They felt like they were too intense, didn't have enough fun, and it was their undoing. They were one of the favorites to win this race last year.
Yeah, you can see everybody trying to get to the front, but then the girls at the front don't really want to open it up full gas yet because they're still trying to figure out what factor the wind is going to play.
Delta Gamma will now pull through on the back at turn 3. Delta Gamma in black. Kappa Delta in yellow as the returning champion. Teter forced to wear green as the pole sitter. They also won the spring series, which usually nets you a white jersey.
Well, that's Chris White-Towich, our coach for Teter down there in the pit. And when he's put in position up there, he really wants their rider out there right now, Erin, to check herself and be in good position. She is, but he doesn't want her to fall too far back. You can see You can see a little gap opening up on her right now. I didn't expect the race to start this way. Really, I thought Teter would drive it hard through the first couple laps. This is great. Defending champion KD out there flexing their might.
Do you think part of that, and again, we'll see how this plays out, is will this be a factor of not having Sarah Ricci starting this race?
I think that was their strategy, right? You have a rookie start, then you come with some heat on your number 2, number 3, number 4 riders. They wanted to save her. But right now, there's a huge gap opening up between Delta Gamma, KD, and Teter, who isn't really our favorite team. She's not panicked, though. She's closing the gap. I think that's what's important, right? When a gap opens up, don't panic. You're going to pull it back.
Right, and not only that, but sometimes you can't take all the responsibility yourself to bring it back. And we can see here that the front of the bunch is coming back together, and it looks like some of the teams are starting to think about doing some exchanges.
Dylan, what's the benefit of drafting out there? You see a little gap open up between Teter and the first 2 teams. What's the benefit of drafting, and how does that play in?
Well, you know, they say it's about 30% different in the amount of energy it requires to go the same speed. So drafting plays quite a big factor, especially later on in the race. It was a 50-lap race, and I'm sorry, 100-lap race, and we're only 4 laps into it. So this really makes a big difference later on.
How is the strategy for this race different than the men's race because it's half the laps? The men 200, this 100.
I think the strategy is still very similar. You want to have quality exchanges, and you want to put yourself in the best position to win. And so, you know, strategy comes into play so much, but really as a bike racer, you just react. You can write everything down before the race, but when you're out there, you just react.
And you know, we see the girl from Teter. She's sitting in second place. She's got great pack position. She didn't panic when that gap opened up. She's doing exactly what she's supposed to be doing in the first 10 laps of this race.
You can start to see some of the conversation that's going at the front of the peloton at this moment. What are they conversing about?
Well, I think they're saying, okay, look, you know, the race has started opening up a little bit. Everything's still together. Maybe the wind isn't going to be that big of a deal. We've made it the first 5 laps, no crashes. You know, maybe they're talking about the party later on tonight. Who knows?
Aaron Hetzu is still on the bike, finished 8th in ITT.
It's all business. I'm really impressed with Delta Gamma. That's Julianne Ellis on the bike for them. She's in black. She's just rode a terrific first set. She's been out there. She's pulled. Now she's sitting second. She's doing what her team needs her to do early in the race.
Delta Gamma, a veteran team. They've got a couple of seniors. They have all come up together, and they feel like their experience could pay dividends today.
Starting to see some of the teams do some exchanges here. It's really an integral part of the race. Will really play a factor later on, especially when the teams are trying to put their best sprinter in.
The women will have to exchange at least 5 times. Guys, can you talk about the different types of exchanges that we will see today?
Yeah, sure. There's the bike exchange. Every team has 2 bikes, and when you have riders of different heights, you do a bike exchange. You change bikes. And then there's the rider exchange, and that's when you'll see the rider getting off the bike to the right. The other rider at the same time will start to run and pick it up at the stem.
They're also limited in where they can exchange, correct? They have to make it within a certain boundary.
Correct. It's a 16.
The pits are 16 feet. I think they have, it's based on where the back wheel, where you can start, where you can finish.
And you have to exchange within your pits, right? And the pit lines extend out onto the track, but you have to exchange within your pit. So here we see Delta Gamma coming in for their first exchange. She's going to take off, and the whole idea here is to keep it vertical. That's a great pickup, and she's on the bike.
Jessica Lander will step on the bike from Coto de Caza, California. The senior, she's going to graduate this year. This will be her 3rd race. She is their sprinter.
And so really the strategy for the exchange is to get a gap from the pack so you can enter back into the pack on the front. You don't want to have to come up through the riffraff to the back. And that is the real strategy around an exchange. Coming in good position. Here comes Teter, our team in green, our pole sitters.
It's going to be a bike-to-bike exchange. Jackie Moeller looks like she is going to be stepping on the bike.
So you'll see the tag here. They're of different heights, so they're riding different bikes.
She's doing a little track time early. That's okay. She rode a good 9-lap set.
For people who are seeing this race for the first time, guys, unique bikes. We talked about the coaster brake, single speed, but also no toe clips. Can't add anything to the bike. They actually have to turn these bikes in to the IU Student Foundation, then they're given back to them on race day.
And a former Olympian that rode in this race, Wayne Stetina, they call this race the great equalizer. And the bikes are essentially an equalizer because you only have one gear. Everybody rides the same gear and the same bike. It's really just a question of how much heart and how much endurance and athletics do you have. How much wattage can you put into those bikes? You're not shifting gears. You're not riding lighter wheels. It's all about you. It's all about the athlete.
Right, and the bikes are really optimized to kind of give you the best gear to do the exchanges, but then also at the same time have enough speed to really maintain what it takes to stay at the front.
There's KD working their way up through the pack, you know, riding like a defending champion. Watch her, she doesn't sit in the back very long. She's focused on getting to the front because she knows that's where she needs to be. And actually, she's coming in for an exchange. You can see the difficulty coming in right out of the corner is that the angles don't line up real well. You can see her getting spit out of the corner and getting pushed out.
Well, not only that, Jason, but these teams that are here on the front side, they have to kind of gas it a little bit on the back side to prepare for the exchange. But the problem is there's a headwind back there.
Sure.
So by the time they come into the pits and do the exchange, they're totally maxed out.
And Dylan, what happens when you're trying to do something like an exchange and you're maxed out? Maybe you're seeing stars. You know,
Yeah.
that's what you don't want to have happen.
No, these girls have come into the pit eyes cross-eyed, so we're going to see some interesting exchanges for sure.
Jenna Cerrone will hop onto the bike. Two top rookies racing for Kappa Delta today. Jennifer Ballback, Jenna Cerrone. Jenna finished 6th in ITTs, Jennifer 3rd.
You know, we already see the lead field. What we refer to in racing is the peloton is almost down to about 10 or 11 riders.
Yeah, and those teams, you know, Delta Gamma has really impressed me. The team in black, they're riding on the front. You know, Wing It's sitting 3rd right now. Cycledelics is there. Teter's back a little bit in the pack. We haven't seen a real fast pace early. It's essentially a little pack is out there.
Yeah, you know, I'm really surprised. I thought that maybe Teter was going to come out full gas on the first 5 laps and just try to blow the race apart, but we really haven't seen that.
But they haven't rode their best rider yet.
It's true.
Are they trying to tire out the other top riders, thinking that they're going to have their best at the start in order to compete with Teter?
Essentially, when you have 4 riders, you stack them up and you rank them 1 through 4. And if Sarah's their #1 rider, she's likely going to get on the bike when riders 3 and 4 are on for other teams, and so that gives them a real advantage.
The weather has accommodated thus far here at Bill Armstrong Stadium in Bloomington, Indiana. It's the 21st running of the Women's Little 500. We'll have more of our coverage here from HDNet when we return. Welcome back to Bill Armstrong Stadium. Sarah Ricci, arguably the best rider in today's 21st Women's Little 500, has just hit the bike for the first time, starting to make up ground. We've talked quite a bit about Team Teter, who Sarah Ricci rides for, but there are plenty of top teams that are competing today in the field. And we talked with riders from 4 other teams, Cycledelics, Kappa Gamma, Delta Gamma, and defending champion Kappa Delta, to get their outlook on today's race.
I'm Julianne Ellis, and I ride for Delta Gamma.
I'm Lauren Reynolds, and I ride for Kappa Delta.
I'm Hannah Gartner, and I ride for Kappa Gamma.
I'm Pam Lobig, and I ride for Cycledelics.
The women's race is definitely kind of a different race, I think, than the men's race, just because it is shorter. It's 100 laps versus 200, which is an obvious difference. But I think, too, there's a lot of things, like in the women's race, if there's like one mistake or one dropped exchange, I think it's a lot harder to recover from like mistakes that you make during the race. Whereas the men's, you have a longer period, I guess, to make up the mistakes if that would happen. It's an intense, it's fast, it's an hour long. I feel like you put all this training into the race for 1 hour. And yeah, I think in the end it's worth it, and it's a fun day, fun race.
Little 500 has been such an amazing experience. I started out because my sister rode for Cycledelics, so I joined her my sophomore year. So I got to experience racing 2 years with my sister and building the team. And this year has been a really cool experience because it's my first year without my sister. And we had 2 girls leave last year, so this has been a building year for us. We've got 2 rookies into it, and it's just been so cool. getting to share my experiences with them and see them get so excited for the race and go through all the rookie steps too. So this year has been more about just having fun with the experience of Little 5.
Little 500 to me goes way back. My family is a big Hoosier family. I have lots of, my parents and uncles and aunts and cousins have all come to Indiana. And so I heard about it growing up, and both my parents are Greek, and it's kind of a big Greek fun week. And so I'd hear about, oh, our Little 5 week this year and our Little 5 team this year. And so I'd always heard about it. When I came to Indiana, I knew about it. I knew what the race consisted of. I'd seen Breaking Away. And I never thought I'd be a participant in it until after I saw my first race. And I'd kind of been interested. I'd been an athlete in high school, kind of wanted to get an outlet once I came here. And after seeing my first race and meeting the girls on the team, I was just like, I know I have to do this.
And each year you know more people and you kind of become more a part of that Little 5 community.
We all get along and we love seeing each other out on the track, so.
Yeah. And especially by your third year, I mean, these are people that you spend majority of your time spring semester with at the track. So come your senior year doing it, it's been the same girls that you've gone through rookie week with and then gone through track practice with, and it's just awesome.
Like, we're in sororities and people are always like, oh, you've got so many great friends there, but I definitely say Little 500 has opened the door to like some of my just as great friends that I have in my house that I'll maintain after college as well.
It is their first victory after finishing second last year.
Last year was unbelievable. The year before we lost by a tiny bit to Kappa Gamma. So last year we came back and we really, really wanted to win. I feel like that happens a lot when you're that close and you just want to get it. You know, you have to have your preparation and you have to have luck on race day, and we just happened to have both and managed to get it done. It was exciting.
Sarah Ricci has started to blow away the pack after coming on and riding for Teter just a couple of laps ago, and she is chewing up a ton of real estate.
You know, at the break we had a crash and the yellow flag came on, and as soon as the green dropped, Sarah came through the start-finish line full gas. And you can see she's got almost a quarter lap on the bunch already. There's nobody there at the front trying to bring her back. I mean, Sarah's really throwing it down.
And this is the move we talked about, right? The number one rider on the bike, Sarah for Teter, and often, you know, 2, 3, and 4 on the bikes for the other teams. Delta Sigma Pi, the team in gray, is trying to catch on right now. They see what's happening. We've got to watch on Sarah. She just did a 39-second lap, so that's a fast lap.
And look, she's actually doing an exchange while Sarah's still going around. She's going into turn 1 completely clear and free.
Sarah Ricci and Teter have opened up about a quarter of a lap lead over the nearest competitors.
And she's all by herself, Dylan. She's all by herself out there time trialing into the wind, really showing her strength. It's up to the other teams right now. KD, Kappa Gamma, Cycledelics, Theta to move up there and start to try to pull her back. Sarah's rolling right now.
Yeah, and if we go to the front of the bunch, there's absolutely nobody at the front really getting that organized and pulling. They're kind of sitting around looking at each other saying, hey, no, you take responsibility. No, you take responsibility. Meanwhile, Sarah's already halfway up the track.
She had her tongue out there coming down the front straightaway.
She did. You know, she's looking to the coach saying, all right, I've done my 2 laps, full laps. What do I do now? Should I come in, take an exchange? And he's going, no, go, keep going.
And the fun thing about this, actually, Chris Wojtowicz is their coach. In 2000, he led a cutters team that lapped the field and did something very similar to what Sarah's starting to do right now.
That's right, and Sarah's coming in for an exchange. We can see her teammate in the pit ready to do a bike exchange and hopefully extend that gap that she's got right now. There's a bike-to-bike exchange.
That was a good exchange. Bike exchanges are usually a little bit slower. You saw the pit just yelling, go, go, go. There's not a whole lot of turning back at this point. You got a gap and you got to keep moving.
Sarah Ricci had a chance to win this race as a freshman back in 2005. Teter and dorm team, this is their 14th Women's Little 500.
Teter has really just blown this whole race to pieces. It's a complete yard sale out there right now. Riders all over the track. This is hard for us to follow, and we've got a whole team of people up here helping us spot, but I can tell you right now that Teter is just blowing this race to all the pieces.
Here you see our leaderboard, Teter, Kappa Alpha Theta, in a distant second.
God, look at her aerodynamic position there on the backstretch. She really looks good on the bike.
Hans, what's your perspective on the way the race is going thus far, not only for your team, but for the leaders as well?
Right now, this wind is really playing a big factor in this race. It's broken up the pack. You can see it's shattered right now. We're one lap down, but we're staying with the leaders, and we're just trying to draft right now. We're trying to stay out of the wind and save as much energy as possible. It's going to be a hard, long day. Let's go.
And then you have Pi Beta Phi, Delta Sigma Pi, team number 9. Team number 6, Kappa Alpha Theta.
Try it.
Dylan, a moment ago you talked about the fact that these women should start to work together to try and pull themselves back in front. How do you pull that off?
Well, what's happening right now is you have Teter, who's clearly off the front and going flat out. And although she has a rider with her, that's somebody that's actually lapped, and the rules probably state that she's not allowed to actually help Sarah. But what's going on behind her is there's a whole peloton of riders that have to work together in order to catch Sarah. Otherwise, they're out of the race, and Sarah's going to be a lap up and be able to win. So they have to kind of collaborate. They have to put aside their own individual interests and you know, try to work together to bring Sarah back. Otherwise, this race is over, and we're only 28 laps into it.
Sydney Hatton on the bike now for Teter. Remember, this is a group that actually, one of their best riders, she's not even riding today. It's a freshman, Caitlin Van Kooten, who qualified 5th in ITTs. But because she's a freshman and a first-year student, they went with an older group.
You know, the only thing I can even see going on behind Teter's right now is Delta Gamma and Delta Sigma Pi trying to work together to bring her back, and we see complete chaos going out there. There's just riders everywhere looking around, trying to figure out who's doing what. But, you know, right here we have Delta Gamma on the front. We're 30 laps into a 100-lap race, and it almost looks like Teter has just run away with it already.
Yeah, they've got about a half-lap lead on our defending champion KD and Kappa Alpha Theta. The only regroup I do see back there is Kappa Alpha Theta, KD, Delta Gamma, and Cycledelics. But again, they're almost a half a lap down at this point.
But not only that, but, you know, so the Teter coach is just saying, go, go, go. You know, this is it. We've done it. And the other girls and the other teams, they're not really collaborating that well together. They're kind of like taking a hard pull, then pulling back, and I think this is it.
It's demoralizing seeing somebody up the road on you and not quite knowing if you have the gas to get them back.
And not only that, but there was all the trash talking about how strong Teter was and that they were going to come to the race and just completely blow it apart, and they're doing it. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, and everybody's just playing right into it.
That said, one of the factors that we talked about right as we came on the air, the crash factor. And as Teter starts to move through the field and starts to sift through some of the competition that may not have a chance to finish in the top 10, they still have to be alert, and it could cost them.
Anything can happen out there. She could get a flat tire, she could hit a rock, she could slide out, crash. I mean, the race is not over until it's over, but they're definitely doing everything right.
Pi Phi has now moved into second. Delta Sigma Pi, a business fraternity which has entrance in both the women's and the men's race, has now pulled into third. Cycledelics fourth.
Looks like Teter's coming in for exchange. Always something to watch because, you know, you could lose a chain, you could have a flat tire on the new bike. You gotta watch this. It's a slow exchange. They got a big gap.
Teter doing another exchange here. She doesn't really look that tired. I don't know about you, Jason, but she looks like she just did, you know, brisk walk around the block.
Yeah, I think she's got it under control. She must have done a lot of roller intervals over the spring months.
Obviously a team that's really well prepared. Only 32 laps into a 100-lap race. And they've taken a strong grip of the race right from the very beginning.
What type of riding will most of these women, and we'll talk a little bit about the men obviously tomorrow, will they do to prepare for this race? Because it's not just distance riding.
Correct. It's a race of intervals, right? I mean, it's a race of being able to operate at zone 4, zone 5 with your heart rate up and do, you know, short 10, 15 lap sets and do intervals. So you basically you train behind a car, you train behind a motor, you train on rollers, and you try to build your endurance and how long you can operate it at a high intensity. There's a guy, that's Chris Wojtowicz down there. He's done this before, and he certainly can operate at high intensity. He looks a little nervous, but he likes his chances, right? When you're out there all by yourself and you're putting time into everyone else, you got to like your chances.
Well, not only that, but the field just completely detonated behind Teter. So there's not only do they have a huge gap, a huge advantage over everybody else, but everybody else also is just spread all over the track, so there's no collaboration. It's almost like Teter, instead of being ganged up on, is just girl by girl.
"34 laps complete." The record, by the way, for those of you with a stopwatch out, 89, beyond control, 1 hour, 6 minutes, 58 seconds. That was in the second year of the race, and it hasn't been shattered since. Is that somewhat amazing considering how much training has changed?
Yeah, well, it is a surprise that it happened, you know, and I think the men's record is 1986 with the cutters. So what you'll see year to year on this track is some years the track is faster than others. So perhaps in the late 80s, right, it was a fast track and awfully good riders.
You know, I count only 6 teams on the lead lap right now.
And Judd, that's another fun thing about this race is it's been going on since the 1950s, and the bikes haven't really changed. They're still riding the same gear, and they're still doing the same. It's a tradition here at IU.
The bikes originally started as Schwinn, then they moved to Roadmaster, and then they moved back to Schwinn. Did either of you guys have a chance to ride the Roadmasters, and could you sense any difference if you did?
Oh yeah, sure. When I first started, they were made by Roadmaster, and they were steel. And then next was an aluminum bike. And to be honest with you, even though the aluminum bike was a little bit lighter, I liked the steel because it was sturdier. And it was like the Cadillac, right? So the bikes have changed a lot over the years.
Yeah, and the weight doesn't really make a difference because the track is completely flat. You actually want a bike that's stiffer because the exchanges actually make a big difference. You know, when you're trying to get back up to speed, you know, having a stiff frame puts all that horsepower directly to the rear wheel.
Yeah, you see our school colors, right? Red, you see the IU logo on the fork. It's really a custom model.
Right, and so the rules dictate that each team has to use the same exact bike, but they're able to change the saddle and the handlebars and the stem to kind of fit whatever the main part of the team is.
Have they talked over the years about making any changes whatsoever to the bike?
Well, the changes that you see are or being able to alter the stems, being able to alter the wheels. You don't see the hubs. You don't see the hubs change. Or I'm sorry, you don't see the bottom bracket change a whole lot. It's a sealed bottom bracket, and the gears stay the same.
Guys, today there are 5 new teams that are racing for the first time here at the Women's Little 500. There were 4 that dropped in the past. We talked a little bit about the School of Fine Arts fielding a couple of teams, but everybody trying to get involved. It's the pinnacle here at Indiana University.
Yeah, you can't beat it. You know, our football team made a bowl game for the first time this year, but I would challenge anyone to go out and find a track bicycle race with this many people here, you know, in the colors and the pageantry that goes into it. Actually, in what you see right now, I think the race is starting to heat up a little bit. Teter is actually, the gap is closing between Kappa Alpha Theta and Teter. Teter's still riding strong, but Theta's now got him within a straightaway, and Theta's coming in for exchange. You can't see that on your monitors. It's the orange team. There they go. You know, and they're doing what they can right now to bring it back. They don't want to see this race get away from them.
Well, you know, we're watching the Pi Phis and Theta actually working together to bring back Teter. And if they do it right, this could be a three-way race instead of it being blown away right away from Teter.
Kappa Alpha Theta, the second most decorated women's team to ever race here in the Women's Little 500. They have won it 4 times, 03, 2000, 95, and 94. .40 laps complete, just over 28 minutes. Teter leading.
There's Winged in the pits. Yeah, so Teter's out there, they look comfortable.
But do we see Kappa Alpha Theta trying to make a move along the back straight?
Oh yeah, they've essentially got it closed right now. This is the Teter rider's last lap, and she's really slowed down a lot. I saw the coach last time around signal to come in. Sarah Riki's getting ready to hop back on the bike, but she's lost her gap to Kappa Alpha Theta. This is great. Theta's pulled it back.
Bike-to-bike exchange.
This is great, and the leader is now Kappa Alpha Theta.
That's right. So Teter's, basically lost that huge advantage, or we could think of it as Theta actually getting back up to the advantage. So we have a two-team race now. There's Theta. There's currently leading the race, but just behind her, the rider from Teter is just going to catch her pretty soon. There she is, right there. Just came into camera view. So we have a two-team race now.
So it's back together, and Theta's coming in for an exchange, so that's going to give Sarah a little advantage. Let's watch the Theta exchange. This is really key.
So now the question is, does Teter go full gas, or do they wait for Theta and then, put some more advantage on the rest of the field? But it looks like she's just going to go for it.
That was quite a ride by Brittany White.
Oh, to bring it back, great ride. She deserves to get on that trainer. Everybody's giving her a hand down there.
She might need some help.
And this is the Ghost Exchange. This is one of the most exciting exchanges to watch on the track. At one point in time, nobody is touching the bike. You'll see it come out from in between her legs as she steps off the back. Takes a little slide, but the reason that's a good exchange is because you're keeping your momentum going forward, right? Not a whole lot slows down. It doesn't come to a stop.
I talked to some of the Thetas about why they like to exchange that way, because apparently that's their trademark, and they said, well, they think it's the fastest, but at the same time, if it's done right, it's the coolest.
Definitely get some style points out there, and that's half the game.
If you're not going to win, you might as well look good, and I think we do have some style points today. The Teter team wearing the old Mappi shorts, Dylan. That's impressive.
Yeah, that's definitely a tribute to a powerhouse of a professional team back in the late 90s and 2000s.
So the thing, Dylan, I don't know, talk to me on this, but the thing I noticed about Sarah when she's riding, her hips, her upper body doesn't move a whole lot. She stays really stable and looks like she's putting out a lot of power.
She's very efficient. She has a great position on the bike, obviously very comfortable at that speed and that RPM. She's got a good spin, good form. Her back is really flat.
And it's just great to see Kappa Alpha Theta and Teter back together. You know, you have a team that dominated all spring like Teter. Kappa Alpha Theta was kind of behind the scenes, a perennial favorite, great coaching, great support from alumni, and they're holding it together and keeping this a race.
Well, look at this. They're talking to each other right now because Sarah kind of sat up, and the Theta rider didn't really take over. So she's saying, look, it's just the two of us. Let's make it happen now. Let's not sit up and let the whole race come back together. And maybe the rider from Theta is not really interested in trying to help Sarah get up the road all by herself.
Yeah, the important thing is that she brought it together. If I was Theta right now, I probably wouldn't pull through either. You know, you're trying to make this race Teter. You're the strongest race on the track. Go ahead and ride it. I'm here with you.
Is it odd to see Sarah Riki and Teter going as wide as they have been on turns 1 and 2, or is that to try to count for the win?
They're going slow right now, so this is what you call kind of sitting up. You know, it's where you're not pedaling as hard. You're going wide on the road. You're looking at each other.
It's trying to figure out what to do. Here we are, 2 teams up the road on everyone else, and it's kind of, you know, you're jockeying for position.
Right, and if you're the coach for the Pi Phis or Delta Gamma, you're saying this is your chance. This is your chance to catch up to Sarah and the Theta rider.
Guys, Delta Sigma Pi is making a huge move now along the back straight, and here coming into turn 4. She's gonna catch up to both Sarah Riki and the Kappa Alpha Theta riders. And all of a sudden, Sarah Riki just started to accelerate.
She knows Delta Sigma Pi is catching up. It's almost like you do that sometimes. You sit up and then you attack, right? And that's exactly what Sarah wanted to do. Sarah's a seasoned bike racer. It looks a little bit like a velodrome race out there right now.
It does. But, you know, you see Sarah sitting up again and the Theta rider not pulling through. This could be the opportunity for Delta Sigma Pi to make this a 3-team race instead of a 2-team race like it is right now.
Oh, yeah. Sarah's asking her, hey, are you going to pull through? Do you want to make this a race? Do you want to drop Delta Gamma? Do you want to drop Delta Sigma Pi?
Yeah, there's definitely some negotiations going on out there.
That's Kristen Method on the bike right now for Kappa Alpha Theta. Sophomore from Cincinnati, Ohio.
And Delta Sigma Pi is right there, right back in it. and the Theta coach, right, telling her to sit on.
Sure, because it's much better for Theta to have this be a three-way race than just a two-way race.
Almost halfway complete. We're at lap 47. And all of a sudden there are now 3 teams that have bunched back together after Teter took a sizable lead, almost a half-lap lead, a quarter of the way into the race.
And it's soon to be 4. If we can get a camera, you know, with this slow pace, Delta Gamma, who rode really strong early, is back in the race.
That's right. It's actually pretty amazing. I mean, we saw the race completely blown apart, and now it's all coming back together. We had a one team race, now 2, now 3, now it's 4. Delta Gamma making contact.
Let me ask you both, a lot of the women and the men talk about the fact that when they make up so much ground, they expend so much energy, they don't have a lot at the end. Everybody except Teter really had to expend a lot of energy to give themselves a chance.
Yeah, that's definitely going to make a difference in the last couple of laps. And they're also, the coaches are going to have to start to think about, well, who's fresh? Who on my team is going to be the freshest, fastest rider on those last couple of laps? Because now they have to start thinking about who's the best sprinter on my team. And then the other teams have to look at the makeup of the teams that they're racing against and say, okay, who do they have on their team? Are they a faster sprinter than my best sprinter? And it's like a chess match going on out there right now.
Hans, all of a sudden the race has changed dramatically, hasn't it?
What's that?
The race has changed. It was Teter that was winning in a round here early. Now you've got a peloton of leaders.
Yeah, it looks like a couple of leaders are coming back together. It's just being strung out. It looks like a time trial. This is going to be a 100-lap time trial. These teams are dominating today. We're just trying to catch up and ride in a pack. We're trying to get together and ride with some of the stronger teams.
And Kappa Alpha Theta setting up for a bike exchange.
Hans, are you surprised that the pack has tightened as much as it has at the top?
I'm a little surprised, yeah, but you know, this wind can be an advantage for some of the stronger teams because since it's a single-speed bike, you can only pedal it so fast. But the stronger teams, it allows them to pedal it even harder on the backstretch. So it's definitely seeing that they're separating from the rest of the teams.
Delta Gamma, then Delta Sigma Pi, Teter.
The wind blowing hard, mostly out of the west, a little bit south by southwest.
And Hans, talk a little bit about what's different with this race this year. You know, Teter had a half-a-lap lead, you had a half-a-lap lead, and a lot's changed. It came back together in this women's race.
That's right. I mean, this has come back together. It's going to be a sprint. It's looking like now. Before, it was looking like they were just off the front. It's hard to keep track of the leaders now. I'm trying to watch my team too and position them well. So it's really hard to keep track of everything that's going on. I didn't expect it to blow up this early.
Hans, are there any other teams that you think can still move back into that pack that maybe have fallen back?
Work with Kappa. Work with Kappa. Kappa Delta looks like they're still trying to catch up to the leaders. They're getting close each time, but they're still being a little bit far off the back. I bet you they'll be able to catch up with a little bit more work.
Cycledelics is also starting to gain some ground along the backstretch. It's about a quarter lap that they trail from the leaders in the pack.
Here comes Delta Gamma in for an exchange, and you can see her. She's got a nice separation from the leaders right now. Great, it's a rider exchange, good pickup. That was smooth. It used to be said, you know, a completed exchange on race day is a good exchange. When you're really tired, your exchanges just aren't quite as good. So basically, you want to avoid disaster and keep it moving.
We've hit 52 laps, so the race is essentially official. If all of a sudden the weather changes in quick fashion, we had to prepare for all sorts of contingencies. They have never not finished a race here because of the weather, but there was a threat of thunderstorms, especially here in the afternoon. But the race organizers said as soon as we hit 51, at least for the women's race, for the men, 101, it's official.
Here comes Sarah coming in for an exchange.
She's going to give it back to Aaron Hetzel that started the race. And, you know, really there's supposed to be a touch there on the exchange, and you didn't see much of one right there. Really slow Teter exchange. She had trouble getting her feet back on the pedals. So that's when tactics come into play. You don't want to give a big gap to Sarah. She was tired. She didn't get a huge gap.
Yeah, definitely no touch there. And then Aaron kind of fumbled a little bit on the pedals.
almost demoralizing in a way, because Teter did put a lot of effort into that attack earlier. They're not getting anywhere, and then that was kind of a troubled exchange.
Well, I think the thing to do right now, if you're the Teter coach, is just to regroup the girls. Say, okay, look, we flexed our muscles. We did some damage. We definitely showed that we're the team out here to make this race happen. Let's regroup and think about the last lap, because that's the only one that matters.
Guys, with that exchange in particular, how much can riders get away with from the judges? Exchanges like that. Are they fortunate right there?
Well, it's subjective, and you're supposed to get a touch, and if you come close, a lot of times the judges let it go. But there's judges in each one of these corners, and there's also pit judges that watch for that. And if you don't touch, or if you don't show an element of that right during exchange, you can get a penalty, which amounts to a time penalty.
We have all sorts of luminaries that are here for today's race. We saw just before the start, Barack Obama was here. Rick Tellender is off to our left. Rick used to write for Sports Illustrated, a columnist for the Chicago Sun-Times. His daughter is racing today for Team 11, Alpha Chi Omega, Robin Tellender, who's a junior from Lake Forest, Illinois. Always good to see Rick.
Looks like Delta Sigma Chi is going off the front. My guess is that she's going to come in and try to do an exchange. And that's the right way to do it, right? You kind of come in ahead of the bunch so that when you exchange to your teammate, she gets thrown in at the tail end of the bunch and then doesn't have to expend a whole bunch of energy to get back on.
Yeah, really a great set here by this. I think that's Delta Sigma Pi coming in. Great set, great burn, good gap. And you see where she comes back into the pack. She comes on the front. She has to wait up for them.
Yeah, that was a perfect exchange. High fives.
So that was rider number 1, Catherine Krengle, with really just a great gap, a really commendable effort there for her teammate.
So we're at an interesting point in the race, right? We have 4 girls on the lead lap, but we have a whole bunch here of about 10 to 12 riders. So that's going to cause a little confusion. You know, everybody's looking around trying to figure out what to do next. We're about halfway through. Race isn't over, obviously. We've got 4 people going for the win right now.
Delta Sigma Pi has never won this race. In fact, they have only finished in the top 10 one time.
So Jason, of the 4 teams on the lead lap, who has the best sprinter?
Sarah Ricci won missing out, so she's arguably the best sprinter, but she did a lot of laps there in the middle. I don't know if she'll be the sprinter. I'm most impressed right now with the team in black, the way Delta Gamma's riding. I think we heard from them earlier, and they're looking terrific out there on the bike.
Sarah Ricci, in fact, last year set the women's record all time at the ITTs, in the individual time trials.
There's no question that she's got a big motor. The big question is, what's her recovery like? Is she able to do that big effort that she did to blow this whole race apart? And then can she do it again on the last lap? And then there's going to be the issue of traffic. We have 4 girls on the lead lap all going for the win, but they have to work their way through traffic.
Teter, Delta Gamma, Kappa Alpha Theta, Delta Sigma Pi. There's a slew of teams that have now caught up with Teter and are on the lead lap. We've got just over 40 laps remaining in the 21st Women's Little 500. Welcome back to Bill Armstrong Stadium at Indiana University in Bloomington. It's the 21st running of the Women's Little 500. Glad you could join us this afternoon for one of the greatest events in collegiate, in all of college. This is the biggest intramural collegiate event in the country. It's an event that dates back to the early 50s. It was made famous by the movie Breaking Away back in 1979. It was written by a men's rider. The men's race will take place tomorrow. It will be the 58th running for the men. Steve Tessich, who won the race for Phi Psi, wrote the screenplay, and it won an Oscar for Best Screenplay back in 1979. Today, we saw Teter on the pole. They started to pull away around maybe lap 22 to 23 and held a sizable lead for almost 20 laps. But several other teams, Kappa Alpha Theta, Delta Sigma Pi, as well as Delta Gamma were able to catch up, and they have made it a far more interesting race, as there are 4 or 5 teams that now have a chance with 37 laps remaining, and there's another pack that is not that far back. They have closed the distance. It's less than a quarter lap.
It's interesting you say that about breaking away, Judd. All spring they play breaking away on the dorm television network here on campus, and I think it's really how we breed the next generation of Little 500 riders.
You know, I'm counting 7 teams that are now on the lead lap. So this went from a 1-team race slowly to 2, 3, 4. Now we're at 7 teams on the lead lap. Definitely a whole reshuffling of the deck.
Do you think in some ways Teter felt that with that substantial lead, they were just going to be able to either run away and hide, but and some of the other teams, you know, because of their fortitude, were able to stick with it and not allow them to do that?
Well, I think a lot of the lap traffic is what helped some of the other teams actually bring this race back together. And that's one of the interesting things. Like when you're out there, you have to definitely take advantage of every possible resource that you have to stay in the race.
And Liz Pilata is using all of her resources right now. She, you know, you can see her really throwing it down because Teter's off the back just a little bit after an exchange. So you got to like that competitive nature, right? They're out there pushing the pace.
Well, not only that, but Sarah's stuck in traffic a little bit. And that's what I meant when we're going to start to see some of the lapped riders have an effect on the overall race.
Just a moment ago, we saw when Teter made its exchange that there was a mechanic that was working on the bike. What are some of the things that they're trying to do? Each team has 2 bikes, and if for some reason neither works, they are given a third.
One of the things that you'll see them do, if the heights on the riders are very different, they'll actually change the seat height, but they'll just want to check them out and make sure they're fine-tuned. Actually, you want to check the chain tension. Sometimes the rear wheel will come forward a little bit, and if the chain slips, that's when it would come off. So you're always checking the chain tension, you're checking the tires, you want to make sure the riders have the best machines out there.
Yeah, you don't want to have a chain come off. That's a great way to get a cinder sandwich pretty fast.
Sarah's fiancé, Peter Schlifke, is their mechanic. They are set to get married on November 1st, which makes for, I think, a great rehearsal dinner on Halloween night.
I'm sure we'll see some. I'm sure we'll see some bikes at the wedding, no doubt.
And Liz Pilata is showing a little bit of agony out there, giving it everything she's got. I mean, she just rode a terrific set. And she got a great gap, and it's a bike exchange. But, you know, she's done so much for her team today just to keep them in it. You know, one of the pure contenders. They're a top 4 team. They have a great chance today. They're going for number 6.
Delta Sigma Pi, Teter, Delta Gamma working their way along the backstretch. Kappa Alpha Theta trying to catch up at this point after the exchange. So it started to thin here a little bit. At what point, if you're the women, do you start to make a move?
The only team right now that I think has the firepower to make the move is Teter. I think every other team, you know, would like it to kind of stay together. Like, you know, as I say that, Kappa Alpha Theta says, I don't need a slow pace, right? They're coming right through.
Well, you know what's interesting is that the other riders are really kind of ganging up against the Teters because Teter has shown that they're really strong, and the other teams are not really contributing, not helping out that much.
Kappa Alpha Theta, they felt like they were a deep team, a team of 8, and from that only 4 ride for the Little 500. A lot of people, in their estimation, in talking to some of the Theta people, felt that they were trying to rebuild the team, and their feeling is, and apparently they've got a shirt, Theta doesn't rebuild, they reload.
But you know, it's great. You know, you see Theta on the front right now really setting the tempo. And here's some interesting symbols coming out from the Teter. They obviously have to have their own language, otherwise the other coaches will pick up on what's going on. But Theta out there on the front, coaches are definitely trying to figure out what kind of strategy to put together here in the last 30 laps.
Last year, the Theta team rubbed a wheel early. They went a half lap down. They were able to catch up with the pack, but they were one of the teams that said they were so tired from chasing. And then 2 years ago, they wrecked, and their rider, Allie McCormick, busted her collarbone. So their goal, at least at the start, was to stay out of trouble. And guys, after watching both the men and women's races last year, I am shocked that we have not seen much carnage.
Well, it's true, especially with the wind and the way that affects where everybody's riding. I thought we would see a lot more cinder surfing, as they call it.
Well, tomorrow, it does not appear that the weather will accommodate. We'll have to see. Today there was about a 30% chance of rain. Tomorrow it is supposed to be cold, about 44 degrees for the men's race, another windy day, and they do expect a heavy dose of rain.
You can see Teter coming around, and that's Delta Sigma Pi, the team in silver right there. That's Catherine Rogoski. A lot of credit to that team. They have built a team around some senior leaders. They have 4 seniors on the team: Heather Conley, Catherine Krengle. They're just riding a terrific race, riding right with Teter.
Teter ready for an exchange right here. Delta Sigma Pi, your leader after 71 laps. Delta Gamma second, Kappa Alpha Theta third, now Teter fourth. And the group that was 5, 6, and 7, they just have not been able to leg it out and catch up to that main group, as it looks like the top 4 are trying to separate themselves.
Yeah, and you know, it looks like Delta Sigma Pi is going to do an exchange here, and my guess is that Delta Gamma is also going to do an exchange here, so we might see rejoining of the bunch of the first 4 teams.
Yeah, you're right. Here comes Delta Sigma Pi. Looks like a bike exchange. Teter's out there as well. Look at all these teams out there. It's all about communication at this point. Here comes the Ghost exchange. And a great pickup. You know, Kappa Alpha Theta really looks impressive today with their, not only the way they're riding, but the way they have great exchanges each time.
It's great to see a team with a trademark, right? Who knows how many years of 21 that they've been doing the Ghost exchange, but the fact that they just keep it going just really shows the tradition.
So why is this a great exchange, right? Because the timing is perfect and they're lined up vertically. You know, at this point, it's all about getting on the bike. So, you know, great set, great exchange, and that's how you keep your team in the race.
And the bike just never stopped moving.
Teter, Delta Sigma Pi, Delta Gamma. And at this point, it has started to string itself out a little bit after the grouping that we saw there about halfway through the race. We're at 73 laps at this point, just under 53 minutes.
Well, you know, the exchanges and all the traffic and the wind is really making it difficult for these 4 girls, even just the 4 of them, to stay together.
That's Jackie Moeller that's on the bike for Teter. Her father is in the crowd, and supposedly he was going to be wearing a bike kit. She said it was the only adult male who was going to be wearing a bike kit today for Teter.
Looking for a little extra chamois time. What do you say, Dylan? Does that count as training?
As far as I remember, it sure does.
The Teter fans that are behind him are all wearing white. They wanted to wear white as the Spring Series winner. The IU Student Foundation would not let them. They are wearing green. In fact, there won't be a white jersey tomorrow either. The Cutters won the Spring Jersey. They will wear green. Or pardon me, Sammy's will wear green as the pole sitter, but the Cutters not allowed to wear white.
Why is that? Now, haven't the Cutters always traditionally worn white?
So you actually get to, there are jerseys that are given to certain awards, right? So the white jersey is given to the Spring Series winner, the green jersey is given to the pole sitter, and then the maillot jaune, yellow is given to last year's winner. So those need to be represented, and the other teams get to pick their jerseys based on the order that they qualify.
Cutters will be wearing yellow to signify last year's winner. All the jerseys are handmade by 2 women just outside the Indianapolis area and have been for many, many years.
And the jerseys there's not a whole lot to them, right? There's no pockets in the back. We actually used to get the jerseys sewn to the shorts. It's just great. You see our 4 teams out there really kind of jockeying it. Delta Gamma is ridden terrific.
Here's the lead pack. Delta Gamma, Kappa Alpha Theta, Teter, Delta Sigma Pi. 24 laps to go.
It's got to give some credit to the to the other teams, because Teter didn't just walk away from this. They kind of held their composure together, kept their heads strong. They got back in the race, and now all 4 of them are thinking about how are we going to win this race.
And so, Dylan, talk a little bit, what do you do to isolate the best team? If Teter comes in here, and they're obviously the favorites today, what can the other 3 teams do to isolate that green jersey?
You know, if the three of them work together against Teter, they'll let Teter do all the work and you know, kind of collaborate. But the only problem is if Teter has a good sprinter, then it's not really in their best interest to keep it all together. So they kind of have to weigh, you know, how good is their sprinter, how good is Sarah. It's a chess match.
And what you'll see in Little 5 is you're going to wait when Teter comes in for exchanges. The other teams are going to pick up the pace.
That's right.
And they're going to try to make them suffer a little bit.
That's right. You know, make it difficult for them.
As a sprinter, at what point do you want to be on the bike, and how many laps left before you really start to push the pedal?
Everybody's a little bit different, but you at least want to have a couple laps in your legs prior to the sprint.
Yeah, you want to have some time to get settled, get positioned on the bike, get your mental mindset ready. You know, you want to start visualizing what it's going to look like when you win the race coming across the line. You think about that even before the race ends.
Great exchange by Delta Sigma Pi. I'm so impressed with the way they're riding because of her gap, because of what she's done for her teammates. You know, look at it. And you deserve to celebrate right down there, right?
Absolutely. They're fired up. I mean, they're in the race still, and that's a huge accomplishment so far.
You know, Delta Sigma Pi, a little bit of an underdog, I'd say, in this race. This is the first time I've seen them sit in the top 4, top 5, a business fraternity on campus.
A lot of these women will ride more than 200-300 miles a week, year-round, to prepare for this event.
And you know, one of the hard things about Little 5 is where it falls into the year. You know, being in April, come January, come February, when it's 20 degrees outside, you need to be on your bike, and it's just kind of a test of endurance.
And this year, the weather was awful here on campus. It actually shortened rookie week. "79 laps in the book." We got a crash in the back straight.
Just caught a crash. It looked like, you know, from what I saw, Sarah was actually, the rider from Teter was going up the gutter and happened to bump elbows with one of the riders who got tangled up. We see the yellow flag out.
Uh-oh, and Delta Gamma had a little bit of trouble there. You know, Theta staying in the race. So you caught her riding in the gutter, did you, Dylan?
I saw her riding in the gutter. I don't know if we can get a replay of that, but just caught her coming up into the gutter.
So the rule on the gutter is that you can ride there if you have to, but you're really not supposed to improve your position.
That's right.
But experienced riders that are real good, right? You'll see them ride up on the inside, and Teter's a little bit more comfortable on the bike. She might have knocked somebody off balance.
I think we'll get a subtle look at this.
Looks like she gets pushed off a little bit.
Yep. And just happens to bump into that rider a little bit. She lost her balance.
You mentioned the exchange for Delta Gamma. Could be costly.
Well, it's costly physically as well as mentally, right? Those are not the things you want to see happen late in the race.
We're back to green.
You know, Teter on the front. Actually, they have a little gap now on Theta and Delta Gamma. It's Teter and Delta Sigma Pi out there making the race with only 19 laps to go.
Under the yellow, no team is allowed to make up any ground. In fact, if you do, the judges will watch for something called creeping, correct?
Yeah, correct. And the creeping penalty, depending on severity, can be between 4 seconds, 8 seconds.
And here's the Teter coach telling her rider to go. You got a gap, 18 laps to go. Let's get this party started.
Kappa Alpha Theta, Delta Gamma, maybe about an 1/8 of a lap behind, trying to make up the ground.
Well, you know, Delta Sig's not really collaborating, not really helping the Teter rider right
Delta
away.
Sigma, they're in the grass.
And then we have Theta and Delta Gamma here trying to catch up, but the Delta Gamma rider's not really helping a lot.
Should that have been a penalty?
I don't know.
You're not supposed to ride in the gutter, correct? But I haven't seen anything.
We'll see it. It doesn't happen immediately. What you'll hear is over the PA system, they'll announce that penalty and they'll let the pits know. Again, you can't improve your position by riding on the grass or in the gutter.
Kappa Alpha Theta and Delta Gamma have all caught up. That's Julianne Ellis that is on the bike for Delta Gamma.
I'm hearing the main announcer announce that there's a penalty.
Impeding.
Team 46 gets a 5-second penalty. Looks like Team Revolution.
"83 laps complete. We've just passed an hour.
So we have the 4 leaders back together, Delta Sigma Pi, Teter, Theta, and Delta Gamma. 17 laps to go.
Teter's won this race only once, and it came back in 2005.
They just look awful comfortable together. That's Erin Hetzel on the bike. I think she's given the little elbow wiggle there, telling the next rider, Delta Sigma Pi rider, to pull through. Trying to keep it orderly, as the 4 teams in the front.
Well, really right now there's no reason to go hard because it's not like this is a 4-team race right now. We've got 16 laps to go. It's between these 4 girls. So it's kind of like, let's just sit and wait and see what happens. There's no reason to really go that hard.
For Erin Hetzel, she's a senior, but this is her first year in the race for Teter. Talking to Sarah Ricci about her, she said she may be new to cycling, but she is just a flat-out good athlete. And we'll see tomorrow a guy who used to swim here at Indiana University racing again for the Cutters team that won last year, Paul Sigvason.
So we saw Erin come through. She was getting some signals from her coach. She was giving him the nod. And obviously she pulls off, lets the Delta Gamma rider pull through. And I think what's happening here is the riders are really taking this moment to kind of analyze each other, size each other up, see who's looking good, see who doesn't look good. Think about the last lap, figure out who on your team you want to have for that final lap. This is kind of like the moment, it's the calm before the storm.
And what's so fun about this race is there's all these miniature races that go into the 100-lap race, right? Every time a rider does a set, it's essentially a strategic opportunity in a little miniature race. Julianne Ellis on the front there for Delta Gamma, just done a great job of keeping her team on the front today.
Beyond that, all the women who are racing today, the effort that they've put in to try and maintain some level of competitiveness and draw some attention, exert some pride, very impressive.
And you do it. They're really they're some of the best athletes, often the best students in their houses, out there representing their houses. So much goes into it for them when you have 100 or 200 people from your dormitory or from your sorority here to watch you.
There's the Theta rider kind of giving her a flick of the elbow, telling the Delta Gamma rider to come on through and take a shot at the front.
That's Julianne Ellis that will pull through. Apparently she's going to try and take it to Jessica Lander, who is the sprinter for Delta Gamma.
So what you might see is that when one of the other teams comes in to do an exchange, maybe Teter, maybe Delta Gamma says, this is my chance to get away and try to win the race solo. So that's what, as these teams start to prepare for their last exchange, we've got 13 laps to go, probably only 1 or 2 more exchanges, right, Jason?
Delta Gamma, their best finish, they finished 3rd. It's happened twice, but it has not happened since 1992. Never won the race. Veteran crew.
And everybody just looks really patient right now. They look really patient and really content. I'm surprised to see them allow Teter to sit 4th. Right, because Teter's enjoying the draft right now, and really I think they're just waiting to get Sarah on the bike at the end. To Aaron Axley on the bike for Kappa Alpha Theta.
$12 laps remain.
Yeah,
88 complete.
12 laps. This is when it all counts, Judd. This is when the exchanges count, and you have to have the right rider on the bike at the right time.
Liz Pilato will probably close for Kappa Alpha Theta. She finished 10th in the individual time trials. She's the veteran from the Boston area, a senior.
Looks like Theta's getting ready to come in and do an exchange. kind of look on her face as she was putting some more power to the pedal. Sure enough, there's her teammate in the pit. This is probably going to be the final set for.
It's just a critical exchange at this point in time. You can't have a mishap.
That's right, because here comes Delta Gamma kind of putting on the throttle. Delta Sig is also coming in to do an exchange. But that's actually pretty good because that means the Delta Sig and the Theta riders can work together to get back up to Delta Gamma and Zeta, who are right now, the rider from Delta Gamma is really throwing it down, trying to make this a two-person race.
And DG is poised to change. 10 laps remaining.
So it looks, yeah, we have a Delta Gamma and a Teter exchange right here.
And it's actually smart to do them, both teams to do them at the same time, because then they can work together to get back up to the front.
Sydney Hatton are about ready to make a bike-to-bike exchange. Look out. There's 2 exchanges going on there.
Oh, and it's all back together with 9 to go.
Yeah, that was actually a great exchange by Teter. Even though all the traffic there, she was thrown right back in behind Theta and Delta Sig.
Okay, I see a couple short sets happening right now. Liz Pilata is really giving it a good effort. She's on the bike for Theta, but she's going to bring it in for an exchange soon. Teter doesn't have their sprinter on the bike, who I think is Sarah Ricci, and Delta Gamma doesn't have Jessica Lander on the bike either, which is their sprinter. So I think we're going to see a couple short sets out of these teams.
You know, things are going to get exciting, especially with all the lap traffic out there. We saw some you know, interference a little bit with some of those exchanges. It's going to get a little bit sketchy.
Kappa Alpha Theta, Delta Sigma Pi, Teter, Delta Gamma in the lead pack.
And the coach from Theta is saying, hey, just sit in, just don't do anything, just wait.
Yeah, don't play all your cards quite yet, right?
It's too early. 8 laps to go.
When it's too late.
Last lap.
But at what point preceding that? You said about, well, if you're a sprinter, you want to get on for a couple of laps, so it's got to be pretty close.
Yeah, you want to have like 2 or 3 laps in you.
And it, you know, Judd, you can win by a bike length or you can win by 4 inches, and it really doesn't matter. What matters is that you win.
Last year, it was Kappa Delta that won handily. 2 years ago, it was a sprint to the finish. Kappa Delta just narrowly lost that year. And it was Kappa Kappa Gamma, if memory serves, that won. 93 laps complete.
Teter looks really good, you know, sitting comfortable. Liz Pilata for Theta, she's riding strong, but she's also expending a lot of energy out there. And that's Delta Sigma Pi, the team in silver that's just pulled through.
When's the last time you saw a women's race that was this close with this kind of a grouping?
It's a good question. I kind of need to think back on that a little bit, Judd. Often the women's race is essentially a time trial, and it's just great to see 4 teams out there, you know, on the lead lap towards the end of the race.
As we see our 4 leaders riding amongst lap traffic as we come down into these final laps with all of the exchanges, it's going to be critical that they ride smart.
Guys, at what point will they start to wave some of the riders to the outside of the track?
On the last couple laps, you'll see the race official. He'll actually hold up a flag that will signify that the slower riders do need to move out.
Is that the black flag?
Well, it's a blue flag with the orange stripe.
Ah, pardon me.
I studied that last night.
And it's the same flags they use in the Indianapolis 500, actually.
You see only 5 to go. Really, everything counts at this point, and I think you'll see all the top teams, all of our 4 teams now do an exchange before the finish and get their sprinters back on. And as we say that, Sarah Ricci steps out in the Teter pit.
Everybody's looking, and here's Delta Gamma, who's just to our left. They're about ready to make a change. Their coach trying to signal their rider. 5 laps remaining.
Delta Sig coming in to do an exchange. Theta coming in. Also, the Teter team is coming in to do an exchange. All kinds of traffic. It's going to be exciting here.
Teter makes the exchange bike to bike, as does Delta Sigma Pi.
DG's going to come in on the next lap. Theta's going to come in the next lap. This is where it really gets fun. You can see all the teams are spread out. It's a new position for Delta Sigma Pi.
The DGs have a sizable lead right now. 4 laps left.
Delta Sigma Pi's got to chase. This girl, number 9, she's got to close it. And we got some critical exchanges happening right now. Here comes Kappa Alpha Theta.
DG's just make an exchange. Jessica Lander on the bike.
Theta doing a bike to bike.
Aaron
Delta
Axley
Gamma
getting on
going
the
in
bike
first.
for Kappa Alpha Theta.
3 laps left. Sarah Ricci working on the outside for Teter.
Oh, and this is, you can see the DG pit, they're all on the edge of their seats, right? They've got a little gap, and there's only three laps to go.
Well, look, and here, Teter's playing it smart right now. She's not taking all responsibility. She's making the Theta rider come together, because otherwise it's going to be all in here. Coach is saying, look, you got to catch DG right now or the race is over. DG is making a run for it. DG is making a run. She's flat out. This is it. She's going to try to win the race.
2 laps left.
Oh, it's going to come down to the wire right now. Teter and Kappa Alpha Theta, they've got to react.
And they're sitting there looking at each other. Nobody's taking responsibility. Theta's not doing it. Teter's not doing it. Delta Sig's not doing it. Meanwhile, Delta Gamma is riding away from this race with 2 laps to go.
Next lap's the white flag.
Delta Gamma now coming into turn 4.
Oh, it's a team pursuit, Dylan. Are they going to be able to catch?
The white flag being shown.
1 lap to go. 1 lap to go for Delta Gamma on the front.
Oh, I don't see it happening. She's got to bury herself right now. 21st running in the women's 500. She's got to nail it. Jessica Lander on the bike for Delta Gamma. Sarah Ricci chasing for Teter. Delta Sigma Pi trying to organize.
3 veterans.
She's
got one of them. Racing in her 3rd race. She's coming down the back straight. Teter pushing the pedals as hard as they can. Do they have enough real estate to try and do it?
Delta Gamma's got it.
Delta Gamma will win its first ever women's Little 500.
I don't think she knows. Does she know she's won? Okay. Yeah, there we go.
It's time to get your hands off the bars. Great ride.
What an amazing finish. You know, it was all on Teter. The other teams, Delta Gamma, Delta Sig, Theta, they all ganged up against her. You know, they used the exchanges. Delta Gamma came in, said, look, everybody's all over the track. We're going to go for it right now here. 3 laps to go.
They pushed an extra lap while everyone was exchanging.
That's right.
That was the difference.
They rode a great race, really smart. You know, she took a big risk. She was obviously really tired at the end. I mean, Sarah was closing the gap there. If it was 1 more lap to go, I think Sarah could have won the race for Teter, but Delta Gamma had such a huge advantage, and they did it at the right time. You know, and what also happened at that moment that Delta Gamma was making their move is that Sarah from Teter and the Theta rider were kind of looking at each other. It was that moment of hesitation. It only takes a moment, and the race was over.
Delta Gamma qualified 2nd. It's their first win. The best they had ever finished up to this point, 3rd. And that hadn't happened since 1992. Last year they finished 6th.
You know, Teter obviously disappointed. I mean, they rode a great race. It just goes to show you can blow the race wide open. You can have the strongest team. You can set the top 5 in time trials, but if you don't race the race all the way to the last lap, you don't win.
In talking to Jessica Lander and some of the other DGs earlier this week before the race, they talked about not only the sacrifices that they have made physically, but mentally. Christina Heath said to me, it's all I think about in class. All I think about.
It's great. You know, it's like I mentioned that this is such a huge event for them, and they spend so much time and energy preparing for today. And the fact that they devote their whole lives, they live like bike riders, they train like bike riders, and they come out here and they race together. It's just amazing. It just shows the fortitude, and it just, you know, you can see the excitement on their face about winning. I mean, this is going to be something that lives with these girls for the rest of their lives.
Delta Gamma with the victory. Teter 2nd. Delta Sigma Pi ended up finishing 3rd. An epic ride for them. Only the 2nd time they have finished even in the top 10. but there were 5 women, or 5 teams that had a chance there on that lead lap.
And look at the whole Delta Gamma pit is just going crazy. I'm sure the Delta Gamma house won't go to sleep tonight.
I don't think they've been sleeping all week. All the Delta Gamma women were talking about was the shake, and they're going to get a chance to taste it for the very first time.
That's right.
That goes to the winners. Just Jessica Lander actually visited 2 schools. She said she visited Boulder to check out the University of Colorado, and she also checked out Indiana University, and she said she just fell in love with it. She was an athlete. She wanted to play volleyball in college, but she also wanted a chance to feel the college experience, to feel the college life, and that's what this event is all about.
Well, you know, it's just a great event all around. I mean, not just the riders, not just the teams, but all of the students that come out and the family, the alumni. You know, the whole town of Bloomington is going off right now for this whole weekend, and I think this is what really rounds out the college experience, and not only that, but just the team aspect of the Little 500.
They said they saw their names all around campus. It was members of their sorority that had taken chalk and basically written their names all over campus on the sidewalks to urge them on for this race, and they said that support just meant so much to them.
Absolutely. I mean, this, you know, it's a big event, and you know, it's not an individual race; it's a team race, and it's more than just your teammates, but it's the coaching staff and your whole sorority and everybody that comes together to actually make this happen. I mean, the whole steering committee and the event organizer. It's really a world-class event that gets put on here today and tomorrow.
See Delta Sigma Pi heading onto the trophy stage. A phenomenal ride for them today.
You know, and they're just really happy. I mean, it's great they got 3rd place, which, you know, for Teter or something wouldn't have been great, but they're just ecstatic, and they rode a great race. They were really excited.
Let's send it down to the public address announcer here at the track, Chuck Crabb.
Our 2nd place team today, the pole team, Teter, the corporate sponsor, Coca-Cola, Sydney Hatton, Aaron Hetzel, Jackie Moeller, and Sarah Reiki. Teter with 2nd place, ladies and gentlemen. And your 2008 Women's Little 500 champions, Delta Gamma, corporate sponsor, P97. The team members, Julianne Ellis from Carmel, Indiana, Lauren Haff from St. Louis, Missouri, Christina Heath of Louisville, Kentucky, and Jessica Lander of Coto de Caza, California. Delta Gamma. The leis and milkshakes have been presented to our winning team. We see Matthew Ewing with our next trophy presentation to Delta Gamma.
The Borg Warner Trophy, emblematic of the victorious Delta Gamma team, winning the 21st Women's Little 500 today at Bill Armstrong Stadium at Indiana University. A veteran group, they said they knew a lot more. They would see a lot more on the track. They know the other riders more than they ever have, and they feel like they've now established themselves as a great team. Today, it's manifested itself.
Speedway, it goes to Delta Gamma.
That's the entire sorority that has poured out of the stands and onto the track to celebrate with their winning team. In their house, the Delta Gamma said all their names of the riders are on a board, and there was a countdown every day, 12 months from training leading up to the event.
Oh, you know what's great is that the whole house gets to participate in the victory. You know, it's not just the 4 girls who won the race, but the whole house is going to be celebrated and kind of revering in their victory that they took today.
Oh, they'll be legends in the sorority forever.
Oh, absolutely.
That's Matthew Ewing just off to our left, resplendent in red pants. He is the Indiana University Student Foundation race director here of the men's and women's Little 500. Down to Jason Sonnenborn.
Jessica, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I'm down here with the first Little 500 champions for Delta Gamma. Christine, you gave the bike to Jessica there at the end of the race. Talk a little bit about your strategy the last couple laps.
There were a couple people burning out, so I just followed their burnouts and then just went an extra lap after that to get a good gap and then gave it to Jess. So it was good.
Jess, what did it feel like, or I shouldn't say what did it feel, but your teammate, Kristen, she came in with a great gap, and then you just gave it all you had. How did you react?
It was just unreal. I mean, my coach kept saying, just do all you can. You know, it's your last year, you know, put all you can out there, and I left it all on the track, and I couldn't have done it without my teammates. It was 4 deep this year, so it was awesome. I was really happy. It's unbelievable, unreal, unreal.
And it's quite a team effort for you guys in your house. This means so much on campus. What does it mean to Delta Gamma sorority?
Well, this is our first win ever for Little 500 in our sorority, so we're pretty happy about it.
And celebration tonight consists of?
We have a team dinner, and then we'll probably be celebrating a little after that, so it should be fun. Yeah, it should be fun. Yeah.
All right, well, great effort today, guys. You know, Jessica, Julianne, you guys all rode a great race. I'm going to go back up to the booth to Judd and Dylan.
Thanks a lot, Jason. All the miles, all the dedication, all the time. Pays off today with their first Little 500 victory. Tomorrow we will have the 58th running of the men's Little 500. It should be a spectacular race. There are at least 7 or 8 teams that have an opportunity to win. The favored team, the Cutters. We will talk much more about tomorrow's event starting at 2 o'clock Eastern Time here on HDNet. You have been watching HDNet's coverage exclusively of the Women's Little 500. The executive producer of HDNet Sports is Daryl Ewald. Our director today has been Mike Sheehan, coordinating producer John Galpin, HDNet engineering by Dan Neighbors and Jeff Millay. I wanted to thank all of our hardworking local crew today for bearing these heavy winds. For my partners Dylan Casey and Jason Sonnenborn, along with Hans Arneson, I'm Judd Surratt. So long from Bloomington, Indiana.
You've been watching an exclusive high-definition presentation of HDNet.